Group stage is complete. We know 6 of the 8 playoff teams in today. 4 teams vie for the final 2 spots. Welcome to the play-ins for the Crucible playoffs. I'm Namagal, joined by Goose. And Goose, we've had a great group stage so far, and I've got a feeling that the competition is only going to get better from here.
Oh yeah, I think the group stage could be defined by problematic for both teams having their own problems and a lot of games going the maximum length. I think specifically, just, overall, this was a group stage that you really couldn't tell what team was going to make it. So much happened both in and out of the server. One team even leaving, disqualifying themselves. But again, I think it's kind of a situation where I had a lot of high hopes for this group stage. I expected this event to be very close, especially with it having a round robin best of 1 format, and it definitely lived up to its potential.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think there were a lot of unexpected results. I think a lot of teams rose from the ashes and proved themselves. And then, of course, you had those teams, as you always do, that didn't really live up to the expectations that you had maybe set for them. We'll talk about that here in a second, but there are a couple teams in particular that really surprised me. And we'll start with Group A, actually. Slime Belief finished up as the number 1 seed. The thing here that surprised me the most, well, actually, there was 2 things, really. The first one, Vans Coast, after how strong they were in qualifiers, not finishing in top 2 of their group was a big surprise for me. And then as well, JJ & Co. ending up in play-ins. I would have expected them to be top 2 in the group as well, just based on their recent results and how they'd performed. I thought they would have done a lot better.
Yeah, and then you have teams like 1HP, which, it got their expected result. I think a lot going into this, especially that Element 4 ended after the first week of play days, we really saw that roster shuffle. JJ & Co. Factoring some of the most of that effect, obviously. That's why they had quite a bit of their own difficulties. And then Washington Wizards not being able to field a roster, choosing to play with their 5 going into the Challenger Series. So they disqualified themselves, or rather forfeited the rest of their matches, essentially giving Shreds a blessing into the play-ins, not winning 1 game, only having 1 point, going against their other opponent, Core Gaming, also in the play-ins, who have 5. It's, one of those situations where if it wasn't for Washington Wizards forfeiting all their matches, Shreds would not be in this position. But again, it is still an opportunity nonetheless. They're a team that got to overtime once. Even if they didn't win a game, they still did really put up a fight, and no matter what team they faced.
Yeah, they did have a couple of close games like you were talking about. They took Friendship Team to overtime, and then they took Outlast to overtime, I believe, yesterday as well. So they've definitely proven that they can hang with some of the competition. Of course, they have had some results that weren't as close. They've also had a closer game with Core. They lost that one out 7-5 on Nighthaven. I believe that there is some potential for them heading into these play-ins, but we've got to talk about what exactly we're going to be looking at today. We're going to start things off with our first matchup that you and I are going to be doing. It's the Group A 4 seed in JJ & Co. versus the Group B 5 seed in Shreds. Like we talked about, Shreds have yet to win a game. JJ & Co. having a bit of struggles throughout that group stage. And I think just the overall way that these 2 teams have come out in the group stage makes this a relatively intriguing and very exciting matchup.
Yeah, it's a matchup that, we'll go more in depth to it in, just a bit. I think, Shreds, as I talked about, a team not really living up to, really didn't have any standards. But again, they were given this position simply based off of Washington Wizards forfeiting all of their matches. JJ & Co. in this place, in, kind of earning it. I don't want to give a sense where they played horribly. There were a lot of different factors trying to bring in Mr. B. But again, I think it's a situation where, sure, this matchup on paper looks one-sided and is easy to really guess, but especially with the context of the group stage, it can really throw out a couple of surprises.
Yeah, and I want to start with JJ & Co. here. Like we talked about, they had a bit of an underwhelming group stage. They finished 2-3. Their 3 losses were to the 3 teams that finished above them in the group, and they've just had a lot of roster turmoil recently. They've ended up dropping players, well, picking up and then dropping players like Mr. B. You've had Didi leave recently. And today in particular, you're playing with two brand new, or not brand new, but you're playing with two subs. You've got Epic joining the roster, and you've got Ampty, who's known as JJ's basically super sub, coming into play for the roster today. No Snake, which you and I have been talking about it during our prep. That's going to be a big loss for this team.
Yeah, Snake has been just the most impactful player, the highest rated player. Obviously, fearing the best on entry going 9-5. 1 kill per round is also phenomenal. Snake has been that rock on the defense, or not the defense, but the attack rather in the entry game. And JJ and Co has been struggling on the attack. More importantly, on those entries. In a lot of the rounds and games on the attack where you really have no upside on the attack, you have Snake trying to just give opportunities where there are little to none, and not having him in this matchup today is absolutely worrying. Obviously, you also don't have Bry, who subbed in the 2 previous games, bringing Amty for the very first time, has played with JJ before, but again, with this set roster in the past couple of months, this is a completely, again, another system that is new. JJ and Coach is trying to figure everything out, and I think that will give a lot of problems going up against Shreds.
Yeah, and speaking of Shreds, we'll take a look at their roster. This is a team that features a lot of players that a lot of people didn't really know about before the Crucible came along. And with this roster, it's kind of expected. You know, you have a lot of players here who may not be as well known, whose ideologies might not blend together very well. And it's kind of been the result that we've seen. A lot of their attacks and defenses are facilitated based off of just raw aggression. And with that, there's just a lack of coordination from this team.
And one of the very few glimpses of hope, opportunity, is Jamari. Not having too much of a, good time on that KD, but his entry, 11-2, is phenomenal. Around, because they played 4 games, 3 entry kills per game. He's just been that player that's kind of just been stand out for a team that has a lot of struggling. But the problem with not only kind of the context of Jamari being good, but the entire roster, is this team just relies on raw mechanical skill. They are a team that has really no structure, doesn't understand how to really play utility at all, both on attack and defense. It makes a lot of rounds harder than it needs to be. So this is a team that just has really great and nasty players that are just trying to make a name for themselves. But that lack of structure, that lack of understanding just competitive Siege as a whole, leaves up kind of an easy opponent for JJ and Co. To read into. And, because Shreds is not that good of his opponent as, maybe a friendship team or maybe a Band's Coast, those problems that JJ and Co. had previously won't play as much of a factor into this best of 3 as they did in the group stage.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this map ban here. So for Shreds, they have 4 maps in particular that they really do not like. They don't like Skyscraper, they don't like Consulate, they don't like Lair, and they don't like Nighthaven Labs. You can see they take off Nighthaven Labs first. That's a map that's really good for JJ in the past, and just in general, they have been very strong on that map. Skyscraper taken off as well. Both teams hate Lair. That's not too surprising. Interestingly enough, Clubhouse is another map that JJ doesn't like. And with his team's flexibility and how they tend to structure their roster with riding the hot hand, it makes sense to take off a map like Clubhouse where there is a lot of that structure and just general knowledge that a lot of players have, because you can't get away with some of those sneaky solo plays that sometimes players like Snake would have liked to have gone for. We're going to start things off with our first 2 maps of Bank and Cafe. You and I were talking about it. These are both maps that these teams are comfortable on. Neither of them tend to have a love or hate of this map, so I think both of these maps are going to be good middle ground.
Yeah, and I think Cafe is a perfect map. That's the map that Shreds took Cruelty to an 8-6 loss. Sure, they did still lose, but they took Cruelty, who nearly qualified for SI, to overtime. That just itself says everything it really needs to. And then going on to Chalet, another map that JJ and Co. has had some successes, did have a very decisive loss against Band's Coast on it. But again, this is a matchup where I think they're trying to fix their problems previously, but going to Bank is very worrisome for me as a caster for both teams. I'm kind of getting into the mindset that we're going to see possibly a wildcard Oxygen matchup. Probably wondering, well, Goose, what does that mean? Well, during SI qualifiers, there was a matchup where Oxygen and Wildcard played blank and only won one attack in the entire map. And both of these teams, Shreds having a 28% attacking win rate, and JJ and Co. having only a 29% attacking win rate. These are two of the worst attacking teams throughout the entire group stage, going to a map that requires teams to have a very solid attacking half. And it kind of leads me to the idea that it's going to really take one team stepping above those mistakes and really fixing their overall structure as a team.
Yeah, I think this map definitely is very interesting for both sides. On one hand, you've got a team like Shreds who you lack a lot of creativity and are just in general really slow with their attacks. They take a long time to clear space. And with that lack of pacing and creativity, you find that a lot of their attacks come down to the final few seconds. And on a huge map like Bank, that's not a great recipe for success. But looking at JJ and Co. as well, their general idea, or problem rather, is just the lack of initiative. They do not like to dedicate a lot of people to droning and gathering information. So when they go and enter the map, a lot of it is just based on that blind overall raw gun skill. And then you find that a lot of their players die on the entry. And with that, that slows them down even more. Again, getting back to a huge map like Bank, that's a huge problem because these attacks are going to be, I believe, what make or break either side.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a matchup where going into this, you have to understand that just pure skill and experience from JJ and Co. should put them in a very comfortable spot to shut down Shreds. Honestly, in my opinion, this is a matchup that JJ and Co. wins 2-0. Especially not having a player like Snake, I think there is potential for maybe an overtime. But aside from that, I just really don't see Shreds just surprising JJ. And that is really the only factor that Shreds have that really will put him in a position to beat JJ, or rather even just get a map.
Bans starting to roll in here. Nothing out of the ordinary thus far. Both teams like to ban Monty and Azami. So JJ getting the first ban, obviously we'll read into the fact that Shreds will take out the Montang and the Azami, or maybe not. They'll take out the Mura instead, but at least can count on one of those bans coming through here. So 2 shield offs off the board, 2 of the strongest shield ops, mind you, off the board here. Mura off the board, that makes a lot of sense. So does the Cade. Both of those operators are extremely strong, not only on the basement site, which is their strongest site because of the fact that you can use those mirror windows in places like Red Hall and at the bottom of Marble Stairs to really slow down any takes through Garage and Server. The Cade as well can help protect things such as Vault Hatch, and even up above, if you're playing in like open area, you can protect Stock Hatch. There's a lot of great value from both those operators, so all those bans make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I really love the Mirror ban specifically. This is a ban that I've seen just kind of more commonly, not only into the competitive scene as a whole, but specifically in the group stage of the Crucible. I've been seeing teams just get rid of that mirror so much. Obviously, you understand that she has an effect on basement, but specifically on sites like CO office or maybe even open area, where you're kind of allowed to have an extended line of sight on those positions away from the bomb site. That is a position that a lot of these teams on the attack struggle with. So just getting that off the board very early on will just make, honestly, the entire attack, especially going into trying to get near the bomb site, trying to get this execution phase off relatively easy, a lot more effective. And I think it's, a phenomenal ban coming out from them, reading into it very well. JJ and Co. banning Blackbeard is kind of one of those no-brainer bans. Blackbeard is the most ban operator in this event as a whole. And then Cade just going into kind of how this map plays as a whole with those hatches. But again, I think this is a matchup where you really have to be careful of JJ Co. because sure, you have that structure, but with 2 new players, especially having an effective entry player like Snake off of the board, you're going to be more prone to losing to those surprise factors that Shred really rely on.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
Getting started here with our very first round. JJ and Code getting things set up on the defense. Down to the basement with Recited out on the roam. You and I were talking about Recited and the fact that he's really been kind of that main step-up player with the absence of some of the fraggers, such as Rival and Deity after they departed the team. He's had a pretty nice stage, and he'll be the one looking to take those first engagements on that Vigil. as of right now, down in square, nobody near him, so not really an opportunity yet for him to take a fight. But with that vigil, he'll just continue to slow down the Shreds attack, make them continue to burn time on these drones, and just in general, see if he can't burn some utility to make it, again, that situation where they have to execute on low time.
I can already see that JJ and Co just completely leaving this first floor vacant, allowing for Shreds to just do that work, do their due diligence, and on top of that, the hatches are also soft. This is kind of a sense where JJ and Co are alluring Shreds to go for this execution. Obviously, they have an extension on this middle floor inside of open area, so they're going to be able to waste a little bit of time. But once JJ and Co, either if they get a pick or push back this attack just enough, they'll fall back down to the site, allow for the Shreds to do this vertical setup, and then force them to go for an execution. But the problem here, though, is you don't want to give JJ and Co that very first entry pick. You don't want to deny them that man advantage, and this pressure being applied by Shreds has worked almost phenomenally, only with Recited still being on this first floor.
Yeah, there's an opportunity here for Ketcha. One player on the flank. He walks his way into staff room. The player crosses in front of him. Recited with the opener. Onto Azez. Maybe a second one for Recited. Romeo all for 2 big kills for the Vigil. And now Shreds find themselves in a huge deficit with only a minute and change left to go. The Deimos will be rendered basically ineffective here in a man disadvantage because JJ and Co can now send multiple players on the hunt, even if he does spot one.
You know what's a good thing about having a Deimos tracker on a Vigil is that you're not going to be able to see it. Rekulu tries to go for a swing onto JJ, just trying to get anything, and now John in a 2v1 crossfire, whether or not he understands it, he still gets the kill. And oh no, Recited! He still is able to find it, and it's JJ and Co to win the very first defensive round. In that early round clear, or roam clear rather, he thought it worked, but not being able to clear Recited, give him those 2 first picks completely untraded, kind of shut down that entire round right there.
Yeah, for Shreds, you really couldn't have asked for a much worse start. You go in the top floor, you start to clear out the roam, but you have nothing to deal with the Vigil, who just causes chaos inside of staff room and then makes his way inside of electrical. He just continues to sit there undroned with no intel and just wins gunfight after gunfight after gunfight, crippling every chance that Shreds had because they had started to fight back. They were able to stop the bleeding momentarily, find a kill. But then after that, they just stood no chance because they had so little information to work with.
You know, we were VOD reviewing the series with Shreds against Core last night, Nomical. And you know what I noticed when Shreds was attacking this top floor CO bomb site? They had no hard breach. And if you look at the operator lineups for Shred, yet again, going into a top floor CO bomb site, no Hibana, no Ace, not even a secondary hard breach. There is quite literally no hard breach in this round for the attack, which is going to make this team essentially go for broke on these extended positions, maybe even try to flood into the bomb site. They're not going to be able to push out these extended players or these crossfires. And as I say that, Recited just gives Reklu the very first for free.
Yeah, Recited had been doing a nice job on the entry throughout most of this season, but that one he gives away for free. The Azami off the board, and with that, all of the potential utility available as well. That means that the Shreds utility on the attack is going to be that much more potent because they don't have to spend so much of it clearing out those Kiva barricades. They can instead focus on something like the shield that Epic brought, and also focus on clearing out the Wamai magnets. And speaking of the Wamai, Emilio loses most of his HP thanks to the DMR of Jamari, who's walked his way up to the top of Square and is looking to see if he can't support his team in clearing out this position. They will deal with the shield, but Emilio will stick around for a little bit longer. With how low his HP is, he's basically playing to die at this point, and maybe he can drag somebody down to the grave with him.
Problem here, though, is they have a ping, but somehow, in some way, JJ and Co are able to take that first pick, losing it, and somehow still find the difficulties of not having that Ace or a Hibana essentially puts Emilio in a position where he isn't pushed out. There is no way to open that stock wall. They just have to go for broke, and somehow Shreds, even after all that, still find themselves in a 3v2.
It gets even better as Romeo takes down Amty. So now it's all left up to the sub Epic, the new pickup. Here with the Frost at the top of Marble Stairs. He's got an eye down towards Janitor. Has an idea that somebody's over there, but his intel is poor and the timing is off. Now they know where he is, and it looks as though Shreds are going to start to take some control inside of the site here. They've got somebody working in, and they're going to get that plant down, but it won't even matter because John is there to cover his team. They do a great job of isolating out the Frost in the 1v3. JJ and Co had no chance, and we're tied back up.
Overall, a round where I was very disappointed from JJ and Co. Just playing into those aggressive play styles. Shreds just playing uber aggressive because they didn't have any hard breach. They didn't have any way to push out these players like this Wamai over by stock, not being able to open that window, not being able to apply any pressure directly on the bomb site, opening that CO wall, and somehow, even with all of this hard breach walls still on the board, allowing for JJ and Co to play safe, they play into these over-aggressive swings, giving them these easy one-for-ones, and it's kind of a situation where I don't want to necessarily say that JJ and Co went out of their way to lose it, but they did play it poorly. They didn't really understand that with the lack of hard breach utility on the attack, that they had a really favorable position. And again, it's another situation where we're just seeing these factors because they don't have a structure, because they don't have a system of siege set up, and they're still figuring so much out. We're seeing these major mistakes still be made.
Shreds back out for their third attempt at the attack. We set our sights towards open area this time. Obviously, JJ and Co do not want to make the same mistake again. But thankfully for Shreds, this time they do have dedicated hard breach. They've got two, actually. You've got Jamari playing on the Havana, and then you've got John bringing out the Ace as well. A couple of great options when clearing out not only the horizontal reinforcements, but also the hatches as well. So, good stuff from them. They're going to start to take control of this top floor. They've got the Ram, who recently lost her secondary shotgun. Still a very potent operator when it comes to clearing out massive areas of this vertical destruction. They have an idea the Resided's on the top floor. And before they let Aziz get his way into the top floor, Resided needs to be cleared out, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Two players in, a third one on the cutoff as well. Resided has no idea. He's just situated himself inside of Trump office. He's got an idea about potentially one coming from Banana, but is he ready for the second one to swing in from Meeting? It doesn't look as though he is. He's going to walk up here. Does he? No, he does not. Romeo easily able to deal with that one as a C4 explodes at his feet. It will miss, and Shreds will claim the first pick.
Yeah, just not only a poorly timed roam coming out from Resided, but also a poorly timed C4 isn't able to result in anything. And not only is all of this vertical just essentially given to JJ, or not JJ and Co, but Shreds, but they get a pick with it, 1:20, and we can start to see this factor of Shreds starting to stall. Still, JJ in a 4v5, that is plenty of positions. That's enough men count to force this attack to go into this execution phase, and relatively uncomfortable with little to no info on the bomb site or its extended areas.
Oh, but the intel's bad. JJ is able to isolate a pick for himself. A second one goes the way of Amty as well. And despite the fact that they got the opener, Shreds find themselves now down two bodies. Amty picks up a second one onto John. And now it's all left up to Jamari and Romeo. The Deimos and the Habana are the last two. They'll have to link back up here on the top floor. They do still have some utility available. A couple of grenades, a couple of flashes, and full utility in terms of the death marks for the Deimos. They can isolate out a couple of kills here potentially with this utility. They have to be careful because there are still four very healthy members, and now one less attacker. Romeo bites the dust as Amty picks up a third, and now it's all left up to Jamari at the bottom of Marble Stairs. Emilio staring him down as he tries to enter in towards the site. He gives away his position, and Emilio is able to make quick work of that as JJ and Co right the wrongs of round two.
A phenomenal response after losing that very first pick. And to be fair, Resided did waste quite a bit of time. Half of the round gone. It took half of the round to clear out that singular player. And Resided, whether or not he understood that he wasn't able to retreat with that player on playing on those main windows, he still just wanted to sit there and wait for Shreds to go and play into them. And then after that, we just see these gaps in this attack with the lack of structure with how Shreds play. having little to no real info on the defender positions on and around the bomb site, both being an open area and then that extension over into archives. And because of that, they lose 2 gunfights to players they didn't understand were even playing where they were. It's kind of a situation where JJ and Co. 100% knew whether or not they were the ones denying that intel or read into the fact that Shreds didn't really have that intel, because they probably would have acted a little bit faster on the execute if they did. They just sat. They waited. They waited for Shreds to overstep, make the first move, and they had the info to support those swings and just shut down those isolated players.
We're back down to server here for round number 4, and interestingly enough, a couple of big changes coming out. Most notably, the absence of the Vigil. This time, Recited is out on the roam again, but he's got the Oryx as his operator of choice. Gonna have a lot more potential to climb up hatches and just cause general chaos throughout the Shreds ranks, because they might not be expecting the Oryx to be out here. They could find themselves getting flanked if they open up hatches, as that Oryx can traverse all 3 floors with relative ease, just jumping through hatches, jumping down hatches, and using the secondary bailiff as a way to create rotations for himself. So, if you're Shreds, you have to be very careful here and use this Deimos effectively to clear him out.
You can see how they think they know where this player is. I'm not exactly sure where they thought he was playing, but he's in the basement. He's in bomb site. You're not going to be able to get him, NBA Young John. But again, you can just see how relatively slow and not necessarily cautious, but even in a sense where this attacking team of Shreds is scared. K-Walk not even being able to get the player inside of open, and with all of this map control and a relatively decent amount of info, Shreds still haven't been able to crack this open area defense. Recited playing just exactly what he was doing in the round previous, trying to play spoilers, forcing Shreds to deal with him, and with no real info on him, they're not able to Deimos track him.
Did Recited just lose half of his HP to a breach charge? I'm pretty sure he did. It won't matter because he'll lose the other half at the hands of John. Opening pick. Now 3 in a row for Shreds, 3 opening deaths in a row for Recited. We had talked about the fact that he had a pretty strong performance in terms of the opening kills department, but as of right now, he's struggling big time. And JJ and Co. now find themselves on the back foot. The good news is they do still have that time starting to work in their favor. And an answer back by Amty onto Azez with the C4, taking out the Grim, is a big answer. That's one of your primary execute operators off the board, and one that would have been great of forcing operators such as JJ out of their positions and into spots where they won't be able to deny the plant. Speaking of the plant, that will have to come soon. With only 30 seconds left to go and multiple different angles of attack, Shreds need to converge on the site now, and they need to do it in full force. The drop will come in. Romeo looking to find a kill here, masked by the Sins gadget. Jamari finds a kill. There's Romeo on the cross, picks up another one as well. 3 kills go the way of Shreds. It's all up to Amty, trapped inside a gold vault, and Reclu will shut him down. It's a wonderful sweep through the basement by Shreds as they tie us back up, and these teams stay dead even.
Overall, I am a little bit more surprised from Shreds in this game so far. Understanding a little bit how they need just simply more attacking utility for that execute, bringing both the Sens, even in a Grim. Even if you weren't able to use that Grim, you still had, they had that plan in place to use that attacking utility to put additional pressure on the bomb site, onto those defenders, instead of just raw pressure from the gunfights in the positions of the attackers. And, you know, it kind of is a situation where you could start to see the Shreds team adapt. On top of that, they were bringing in Ace, but they're going to be bringing in Sledge. And to be fair, though, I talk about how, you know, bringing Hard Breach on this top floor is so important, but they still won it, and relatively decisively, in a 1v3 for JJ and Co., where they just continue to overswing. And if Shreds are able to do that yet again, you really do need to start to worry about JJ and Co. Those problems that I talked about that wouldn't have as much of an effect in this series so far has costed them 2 rounds, and very decisive rounds.
Very curious so far for JJ and Co. We talked, you and I, before we came on air, that this was going to be a matter of who won more attacks. And even really during the pre-show, we talked about it as well. And already, Shreds are doing much better than many people would have expected. We talked about the fact that they both have a less than 30% attack win rate, and picking up 2 attacks here with still 2 to go, that's huge for them. Jamari's working his way in down below here, trying to see if he can't isolate a one-off gunfight. That opportunity will not come, however, as the only player off of site right now is Recited, and he's down in the basement on the Valkyrie, looking for intel and looking to see if he can't cause a late round flank. Shreds do not seem too keen to isolate him, however, as they don't really have a lot of information. So they're going to let him stick around down there and instead set their sights on clearing out plenty of this defender utility, such as those castles.
Yeah, you can see this time around, JJ and Co. doing a really good job just not standing in front of the window and giving an opening pick to this sledge. Again, it's just a round where JJ and Co. just don't give these easy ones. They force Shreds to play into this defensor setup, play into these reinforced walls, force them to clear out these positions and waste time, and then have a relatively healthy man count going into that execution phase. It's an easy defensive round win. And on top of that, adding Recited on the flank, an additional factor that wasn't there before, but Kwok is still completely aware and he shuts it down. Another opening round where Recited has no success.
Oh, it gets worse as Azez gets another one onto Amty. Ascending the stairs, Reklu finds a third. This is falling apart for JJ and Co., turning into a disastrous first half on the defense. JJ and Epic, the last 2 alive. JJ running circles around, dancing, swinging, trying to go and see if he can't find anything. He will find nothing. It's a flawless round for Shreds, and for the first time in this map, they have the lead. JJ and Co. scratching their heads.
I'm disappointed. I really am. And I also want to don't take away too much from Shreds. While JJ and Co. is doing a really poor job in reading to what Shreds is doing, you have to have Shreds putting up a phenomenal game. Getting 3 rounds, 50% of the rounds now already won. Already much better than their overall attacking rate, doing pretty much all they really need to do. And keep in mind, JJ and Co. still needs to attack. Shred's doing a phenomenal job at applying pressure in the exact right places, understanding where these semi-weak points are, attacking those positions first, finding these isolated players and power positions with little to no defender utility being backed up, and Shreds will take that fight any day of the week. It is barbecue chicken, bone fall or meat falling right off the bone, and JJ and Co. just has Recited completely isolated with no additional util aside from a couple of calls and maybe his own sound cues, and Shreds read directly into that also. This is a series where JJ and Co. to start it off have no control of bank whatsoever.
Yeah, they really have lost the plot as of right now. It doesn't seem all that great. They just seem as though they're playing like a team of individuals, and Shreds are just on their guns right now. Shreds have been able to isolate 4 opening kills in a row, and that gives them a great platform to launch their attack from. So if they can continue to keep that going, I feel like they're in for a lot more success. They've already bucked the trend that you and I were talking about with the attacking, and they're looking to continue that here. They've already started to put pressure on the site. Azez has sent some of those breaching rounds in to open up long lines of sight for those ACOGs to start to work. They've opened up a crossfire right through the middle of the objective. That is a big opportunity for them to find a kill on somebody who might be rotating.
I already love just the utility that is coming out from JJ and Co. to not only deny this info from Shreds, having that Mozzie, having the mute to just make sure that these drones cannot get close to the site, and then on top of that, having this Valkyrie being backed up by the default cams, you have a little bit more extra just info. This is something that has been very important for this overall defense, and as I say that, Kwok just runs up stairs, gets an opening pick, and just walks right into the site.
Blinded by his teammate on the Ying, he's able to isolate himself for a second, get himself back to a stable position, but not before Amty on the flank is able to trade him back. Reklu gets one as well. 4v2 now in favor of Shreds as the plant goes down. There's chaos everywhere. Nobody has no idea what's going on. Amty the last one left, and John will claim him as well. Everyone in JJ & Co. meets the grave, and we meet the end of the first half. 4-2 in favor of Shreds.
Shreds are absolutely defying the odds right now. Not only their historic lapse of judgment, bringing an additional attacking utility in rounds even yesterday that they didn't really bring it. I don't exactly know what happened to this Shreds team, what really snapped in their minds to go ahead and say that we need to bring a more structured play style on attack. We can't just rely on these ones. We can't rely on these gunfights to win us a best of 3, while JJ and Co. Obviously, these two subs having a lot of a negative effect. Not necessarily these players are making the playstyle worse, but they're just not adding enough. Not having Snake, that very pivotal entry player. You can see Recited, he continues to put himself in these positions and have no success whatsoever. And now switching to the attack, where those entry kills are going to be so pivotal, to the point where if JJ and Co. do not get the opening pick on the attacking round, they only have a 7% recovery rate. This looks like a map that has little to no hope for this team.
Definitely a spot in a dire straits for JJ and Co. They got to have a big attacking half here. The comeback starts now. They're out on the board. And I'm already noticing some similar trends to what JJ and Co. were doing on the defense here, Goose. You've got not only the Oryx for a little bit of roam, but you've also got Azez playing on the Scopos. That could cause chaos too. Both of those operators are perfectly designed to go for late round flanks and late round aggression. And if JJ and Co. do what you and I said that they so often do, where they're not keen to drone, they could easily fall victim to that. They're going to see if they can maybe avoid some of that, however, as they're going to walk their way into server. Recited leading the way here on the Osa will start to place down one of his shields and give himself a little bit of security. They've opened their way in, and JJ has found the opener onto John. They know about the second player, though, as Romeo is still lurking here on blue stairs. It seems as though they do. 2 big kills going the way of JJ and Co. as Romeo walks his way back up towards Janitor. Gets 1 kill, takes down Emilio, the Lion off the board. And Romeo will continue to go on the flank as it's just him and Reclu left alive. And actually, they're both up above here. They have to be careful. Bots the feet of the Osa, does some damage. Recited, lit to low HP. But Reclu's position has been given away. Surely JJ and Co. send somebody up here to flank.
What?
Maybe not, however, as Reclu gives away his position and walks right into the crossfire of Epic. And now it's all up to Romeo. Picks 2 big kills.
Okay.
That was so winnable. But Ampty stops the bleeding. And thank goodness for that, as that would have been disastrous for JJ and Co. They pick up a round.
I love how this game, specifically that round, kind of just is telling me, Goose, you did all of this work. You tried to read in how do these teams play, and none of that will be true in this matchup. Obviously, I don't want to go out and say this is going to be a completely attacker-sided bank and that both teams are going to get a 4-2 on attack. But that round from JJ and Co., just that structure and the ability to play off of each other as teammates wasn't there on defense. I'm not exactly sure, and I think, this JJ roster, because it's going through such a massive rebuild, they tried to bring in a system player like Mr. B that had no effect whatsoever, and now bringing in 2 completely new players, it's kind of a sense where I don't even think JJ and Co. fully have a grasp of their own problems and how to fix it. It really just goes down to a T of just really no system or structure being put in place. But on top of that, just these rounds where they just see what's in front of them. Shreds playing way too aggressive in that defensive round, and JJ and Co. doing a phenomenal job of punishing it.
Oh boy, Goose, we gotta catch our breath here for a second. These rounds have been flying by. JJ and Co. and Shreds bringing all of the aggression through that first half and change, and it looks like it's going to continue, as they're already boots in the building. Recited looking to open up the vault hatch. It looks as though we might have another rush coming out from JJ and Co. As JJ, the man himself, is on the blitz, looking to take the front line. The hatch drop comes in. Everybody sprints into action. JJ, the first one forward. His teammates behind him find 2 kills, 1 traded back by John. The blitz continues to push forward, getting lit to shreds by the remaining defenders. Another one falls. Azez meets himself an early death. Romeo trades it back, thankfully, though, so this is definitely not out of the question. But from Garage, Epic picks up a 3rd, and Recited cleans things up. Recru blew the last one, but he had no hope, and the rush works to perfection for JJ and Co.
Oh, wow. Another round where JJ and Co. said, we're just not even going to try and clear the entire map. We're not going to play into that roam clear, which, to be fair, these 2 rounds have been so effective because they haven't played into the roam. They haven't played into this extension away from the site that Shreds has been not necessarily trying really hard, to be fair. They really only do have 2, maybe 3 players, with not a lot of defensive utility to back it up. But just, in previous rounds, especially the previous matchup on Nighthaven Labs, where they were only able to win one attacking round, was a sense where they just were not able to clear those roamers, get that map control relatively early. So now JJ and Co just going for these very quick site hits, trying and having success taking Shreds off guard, and now Shreds allowing for JJ and Co to play the basement bomb site now 3 times in a row. This is kind of a sense where we're not really seeing extensive ideology on this defense from Shreds.
Yeah, I mean, Shreds are bringing all of this utility here. They're bringing the Goyo, they're bringing the Fenrir, they're bringing the Aruni, they're bringing even the Malusi. All of that utility has pretty much gone to waste the last couple of rounds here, and it looks as though it might go to waste again, as JJ and Co are looking to once again quickly take their way in through server at the hands of Recited, leading the way, as he's got that Osa brought out once again. Although this time, it's not going to be quite as easy for them. There is a Fenrir Dreadnought Mine set up on the door to Dirt Tunnel, and you've got Romeo playing in the middle of server as well. It shouldn't be quite as easy for them to take this space, although it looks as though they've realized that, and now players such as Ampty are going to start to rotate their way to the top floor, and JJ and Co are going to start to go for a more conventional take.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not going to be able to get that, hit to the site really early. 2 rounds in a row, third, just not going to happen. A phenomenal job, I was going to say, from setting up this extensive trap utility, but Shreds just taking down Emilio and Recited so early on. Epic is able to go for broke and get rid of the Malusi, but still so much lost in such little time for JJ and Co. Still 1 player, or actually no players, playing in this top floor. 1 hatch is going to be open, so it's going to be relatively early, but now JJ and Co, after losing that opening engagement, has been put in a position where they have to go for this execution with a man deficit, but they do have Reclu completely trapped from the bomb site, and they are able to even it out.
Great play there by Epic, picks up his 2nd kill of the round, and now we find ourselves, like you said, back into 3v3. JJ's still alive. He's got Epic as well, with plenty of utility still in pocket. Ampty as well is a very capable fragger. Picks up his 8th kill of the match so far. And now JJ and Co, despite losing those first 2 picks, find themselves in a man advantage situation with just under a minute to go. This is definitely not out of the question for them. But now they have to start setting themselves up for the execute. As the fire will start to burn away at the default plant, JJ and Co have to continue to be patient here and let that fire expire, and then get ready to just drop in and see if they cannot cause chaos. They're ready to do that. They're waiting for the opportunity. The Grimbees are going to start to come in here and give away the positions of the last 2 defenders. Romeo will be forced back. Jamaru as well into the depths of the site. Epic will go in for the drop, followed by the rest of his team, and now it's time for the coverage. JJ looks to attempt the plant. Here comes the swing from Epic, picks up his 3rd kill. The last one alive is Jamari. Downs the Grim. 2 more to find with the plant down. Picks up a 2nd kill. It's all up to the low HP Thermite. Jamari to save the lead. JJ baits his teammate and clutches the round. And JJ and Co pick up 3 back-to-back-to-back attacks on server.
I mean, exactly what I said before. You just cannot allow for JJ and Co to go to the exact same bomb site 3 rounds in a row. Epic even said, are you going for a 4th time? They'll be holding off. They won't be going down. They'll instead be going upstairs to that executive NCO bomb site. Even when losing the opening engagement, not only losing the opening engagement, but losing 2 players completely untraded until Epic was able to find a kill through that office wall inside of Archives. It's a round that JJ and Co should not have won, but the over-aggressive, just Shreds not understanding when to fall back off of their positions allowed for 2 just completely isolated picks to just be given to a platter on JJ. 1 player not even looking away, another inside of servers, completely isolated. Nobody helping him. No shield. He wasn't a warden. He didn't have any lies. You throw a flash, you go and kill him. We're starting to see shreds. Their lack of experience start to bleed through on this defense, and JJ and Co, they're taking advantage of it.
Hey, Goose, are you sure we looked at the notes correctly
Dude,
for this match?
Don't even get me started. Like, my entire, like, okay. My bad. I didn't know NBA Young Romeo was like that, but just shutting down Recited. No more Capitow now. What a way to start the round.
Oh, absolutely. It looks as though they might be tempted to go for a jump out, too. I believe that's the Echo. I believe, yeah, that's John in a position where he could potentially jump out on Epic here. They have intel, so if he does jump out, it likely won't be met with much success, but the opportunity was there. I say was, right as John trumps his way back up into the safety of Trump office, and now has himself an opportunity to continue to just sit passively and utilize those yokai drones to gather intel for his team and continue to help them facilitate this man advantage situation.
It actually looks like they might be going for a sight hit quickly, and that's exactly what they're going to be doing. JJ trying to get the bomb down. He has that Osa shield protecting him. And Shreds, they're not aware of it. They're not even in a position to deny this. JJ allowed to get out of the bomb site. AIMT is able to shut down Romeo. Now a 3v5 or a 3v3 now. Rekulu is able to get one. They don't even know if anybody's in the bomb site. Rekulu with another. A second in the round onto JJ.
Wait.
And now the Echo getting on the bomb. There's nobody on the windows. There's nobody to deny this. The Claymore now. But where's AIMT? He's all the way in square. Are they aware of this? The shield up. They can't get him. He can just get on the defuse. There's nothing they can do.
Oh!
A complete blindside.
Oh!
And he loses his life. And a failure of an execution from JJ and Co gives the perfect opportunity for Shreds to even it out. I'm gonna go. I told you this last night. I'm gonna go back and check.
Oh my gosh. What did I just watch? That was crazy. There's no way JJ and Co should have lost that. 4v3 man advantage on the top floor site with 2 people on windows. And an Osa shield to defend the diffuser. And the Osa shield turns out to be the thing that puts the nail in the coffin for the retake for JJ and Co. Losing it out in an opportunity where they could have still won it, despite the fact that it was a 1v2. The second player had to run all the way back from outside the building on a jump out to get the final kill and cover his teammate as they went for the diffuser. That is what you call one of the craziest retakes that I have ever seen. Shreds had no, let me be clear. Shreds had no business winning that.
No.
But the over-aggression and overstimulation of JJ and Co. feeding themselves into 1v1 engagements cost them what could have been a crucial round. And now we find ourselves at 5-5.
Before we get in the round, I just want to mention last night I told Nam they only have a 60% conversion rate after getting the bomb down. Nam's like, well, you know, they've only had 2 plants. That's not really that big of a deal. Or actually, it was 3. But I'm sorry, Nam, but I was right. And I think it's a sense where we're seeing that lack of structure. This team has not played together with a set 5. The 2 subs bringing in, sure, you have really effective players like Epic and AIMT. Even Emilio, when he is down and not having a relatively good game, he still is able to get really aggressive, take a lot of space on this top floor. Sure, there isn't really a big effort from Shreds to deny this control on the top floor, but again, you can see that throughout the lapse of judgments, the mistakes that JJ and Co are making in both the rounds previous and this one here, it's a sense where they're still able to have this wealth of confidence, and it's going to allow them to go throughout this round with a lot of pressure. You could already see Shreds just feeling this pressure. No idea where this attack is coming from, but they have to retreat, getting shot at, and it's kind of a sense where JJ, after a huge round Ross, they're still using this confidence to try and take as much control as possible.
Nice find there by Reclute, taking out one of Epic's Twitch drones. That means that at least some of the defensive utility is going to be safe. Do they not know? Ampty, just sitting in the middle of square, right next to the cap can, takes some shots, but little does he know there's a player behind him. He wins the fight anyways. Reklu had no business winning that. Epic trades it back, thankfully, but an absolute freebie given away for JJ and Co. Shreds find themselves thanking their lucky stars that this ended up in a 4v4. They find themselves still in a pretty good spot.
And that lack of droning and consistent droning, and then in turn consistent info, gives that opening pick away, but Emilio still going huge in the round, giving JJ and Co with 40 seconds on the clock, then man advantage.
Okay. I'm not sure what that was for. I guess they're going to try and mask the sound of the drop with the boogie drone. And with that trigger, here comes the clear drop in. The plant attempted by JJ. It's all falling apart for Shreds now. Epic picks up his second kill. And now it's all up to Jamari with 4 players left to be found. Emilio will find 1, but JJ will quickly trade it back. It got a little dicey there, but JJ and Co stay cool, stay the course, stick to the plan, and find themselves match point.
You really just gotta go a different bomb site, Shreds. It's just not working out. And you've now given JJ and Co 4 attacking wins. Their only 4 attacking wins is on that basement bomb site where they're able to apply pressure relatively early on in Shreds, and Shreds just not really changing a whole lot on their defense, especially on that extension. Still putting a lot of effort on that open area hold. Nobody on the top floor, nobody in archives, nobody trying to go for runouts or push these surprises, going for anything different on JJ and Co. Ensure they lost that opening pick. But then you gave them an isolated 1v1. Traded that back easy enough. You did lose the sense, but because you gave them another isolated pick after that, inside of server, on probably the exact same position that they got in the round previous that they attacked, it's just Shreds. Their lack of experience, their ability to not adapt whatsoever are making these rounds kind of a cookie-cutter checklist for JJ Co, and they're eating it up.
I mean, yeah, well said. They literally are doing basically the same thing every single time, and it's working out very, very well for them. Couple big changes here coming out for this second attempt at open area. You've got JJ bringing out the Brava this time. Not a lot of utility that he's going to be able to get with that. Really, the main thing of note is going to be the Capcan traps. And they should have relatively no issue dealing with them, especially considering they have the Twitch as well. Ampty finds a kill onto Romeo, the Legion off the board. That's some more utility there that the Twitch and the Brava would have had to deal with when the time came. And now the fact that Romeo is dead means that he won't be able to generate the goo mines. That's a pretty big pick there to find for their first.
That is a really big pick. And just look how Emilio has just wedged his way. Even being able to get these openings, but somehow Shreds finds 3, and now, out of nowhere, JJ and Co have just completely been hit blindsided, and now we're in a 2v4. Epic needs to go huge, just misses the player, but he's able to find him now in a 1v3. No info, they know exactly where he is. A 3-man crossfire, essentially. No bomb in his possession. Little to no opportunities, but a nice shot onto A's. Puts him in a 2v1! Hold on 1 second, a triple in the round! The Legion Mine will slow him down for now. But Epic, he just needs to find where NBA Youngjohn is. He can't see the head. He has a good idea of where this player is playing, but he just isn't able to find him! And the swing and regulation is able to end it out! And JJ and Co, a 1v4 from Epic, and shuts it down, and they take Shred's bat pick away.
Absolutely insane stuff. The newest pickup to JJ and Co proves his worth. Epic 16 kills, including a 4K on round 12 in a 1v4 to save the map. Crazy, absolutely bonkers stuff by JJ and Co. A map that was full of crazy swings, massive 3 and 4Ks, What a way to end it out.
I mean, uh, I mean, we talked about it last night, and I said that throughout all of the problems that JJ and Co had, they still have consistent entry players, consistent fraggers, like Recited, like Snake. Not having Snake in the board doesn't matter when you have Epic, who has been a player who has really shined and showed his worth in these previous months on Loyalty is Scarce, even going all the way back into Element 4 in a 15, maybe 16 kill bomb, not exactly sure on that one, in a 4K to end the round. When you don't have consistency in the structure side of things, but you have a player having an absolute heater, you need nothing more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it came out of nowhere back around the time of Element 3 when he joined up with Aerial Arise after Poison departed the team. And since then, this man has been on an absolute heater, taking no prisoners, leaving no fight on one. Crazy stuff. And Goose, I mean, if you're Shreds, just think about this. You had overtime right there, and then just a few poorly timed, poorly guessed swings with a lack of information made all of the difference. You had overtime right in your grasp, and now JJ and Co have that extra boost of momentum heading into map 2.
I talked about the inexperience. I talked about how this team does not have a deep bag, and going to their map pick, going to basement 4 rounds in a row, not only losing it 4 rounds, that's fine. If they won it twice, lost it twice, still, the fact that you allowed for them to go that many times is a warning sign. And now JJ and Co going into the second map has complete control.
Well, Goose, I think you and I need a second to regather ourselves and reset. I think Shreds definitely need a moment to reset after what we just witnessed. And I think JJ and Co need a moment to grasp the fact that they are one map away from playoffs and a date with Team Cruelty. So we'll take a break. And when we come back, it's map number 2 of Shreds and JJ and Co. We are back. Map number 2 of the Crucible play-ins. Game number 1 between JJ and Co. and Shreds is just moments away from getting back underway. If you're just joining us, I'm Nomical, joined by Goose, and we had a absolute barn burner of a map number 1. Map number 1, speaking of which, was Bank. It was a 7-5 in favor of JJ and Co.
Yeah, and now going into map 2, Zay, we can hear you.
I was so confused. I was like,
Yeah,
I was over here doing my
map-
spiel, and then JJ, or not JJ, Zay was just talking a minute, and I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Phenomenal first map. Obviously, you had to have players like Epic go absolutely 4K in the round. Phenomenal. A lot of scary rounds. A 2-4 half to start the defense for JJ and Co. We're able to make it up, getting a 5-1 or 5-2. They got 5 rounds on attack.
Yeah.
But just completely beating the odds, beating the expectations. But again, it is still very scary hours, even though we are going on to Cafe. This is a map that they also lost 3-7 against Friendship Team. I'm not saying Shreds is like Friendship Team, but again, we're still seeing, specifically on the defense, the lack of consistency for JJ and Co. to deal with this pure aggression. And Shreds is a team that they'll, 3-man push you. They'll have an isolated alert player on attack. It doesn't matter how they do it. They will push this aggression in every way and form.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that firsthand throughout the first map, just constantly rushing the basement site. 4-0 on attack on the Bank basement site is something that you never hear about, ever. Like, no matter what. That is one of the best sites on Bank. And I think with, like you were saying, the aggression that they've had, it's proved that it can work. I have a strong feeling that we will continue to see it successfully attempted on this Cafe site. Because on Cafe, there are still plenty of opportunities to go for plays like that. You can just drop in through hatches, drop down the main skylight into bar, and jump through windows with a Maru. I have a feeling that we are in for an absolute treat of map number 2.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the last time that we saw Shreds play on Cafe, they forced... I'm trying to remember the team. Give me a second. I'm having a little bit of a Joe Biden moment. Oh, yeah.
Hey, you're me.
Yeah. but they somehow in some way forced Cruelty to an 8-6 victory. Still lost, but the fact that they were able to force Cruelty to win it in overtime shows on just how good this map really caters to their playstyle. I don't necessarily want to say that they understand how to play Cafe perfectly, but they do understand how to use its aggressiveness. Did a phenomenal time on their defense going for these really aggressive spawn peaks and runouts. And honestly, a lot of them were isolated. They were relatively easy to counter. For some reason, that day, Cruelty just was not fully awake at the wheel, allowing for those aggressive opening engagements to have success. But if JJ and Co are able to punch that once they rotate to their attack, I think it's going to be relatively a good time, and they can shut it out here.
Gonna start things off at the top floor. We talked about the fact that Cafe is kind of a middle ground map. Both these teams have had pretty solid, but also not great results. JJ and Co. suffered a loss against Friendship Team on this map during the group stage. Shreds actually had one of their best performances during the group stage on this map. They took Cruelty to overtime, ended up losing at 8-6, but I still think that there is a lot of potential for them here. Start things off with them on the attack, and I'm already seeing some things that I think they could take advantage of here. I'm seeing just a general aggressive lineup here from JJ and Co. You've got a lot of operators that are designated and geared towards taking those forward, quick-paced gunfights. You've got something like the Jaeger, who can fly around the map. You've got the Frost with an ACOG, JJ as well, who is likely going to be playing in a very forward position. And I think if Shreds could capitalize on that early, they'll be in a great spot to continue to string together attacking victories.
Epic already filmed himself just going for this run out, but with that default cam shut off, he's just going to play back. And I also like this overall setup on the defense from JJ and Co, making that extended position over inside of Piano disconnected. Simply just having that double door barricaded with that castle barricade completely disconnects that position. Even if they are able to get control of that space, they still don't immediately have that control going into Piano. But a phenomenal entry from K-Walk not only shuts down Recited for the opening, still having so much trouble, but also gets rid of the utility.
Yeah, Recited's had himself a rough go of things. Had a rough time on the entry on map number 1, and now dead first as the smoke of all operators. And Jamari finds a second kill, runs into sight after killing JJ, but thankfully Emilio's there to avenge his team's death over by Pixel. Ampty equalizes back onto Azez as well, and now we find ourselves back in a 3v3. This is definitely anybody's game at this point, considering what utility has been lost on both sides. Romeo, speaking of which, has burned through most of his Capital utility as well. So he's going to be mostly just a gun going forward. John, with only one Selma left for Hard Breach, he has to be very careful with how he uses that. And as JJ and Co start to fall back, there's going to be more and more layers for Shreds to burn through, and they might find themselves running low on options.
Yeah, on top of that, just no real entry. Still worrying about these crossfires, worrying about these swings. Epic just almost getting the better of Romeo, but it's Romeo to shut him down. And these over-aggressive, isolated plays that JJ continue to give this attack, Shreds, they're taking advantage of it.
Emilio's still surviving on low HP here. Just under a minute left. Ante bites the dust, and now it's a 1v3. Romeo goes big for a couple of impactful late-round kills. And it's round number 1. Once again, bucking the trend, going the way of the attack, and Shreds start off Cafe with a lead.
I really love this aggression because, you know, I think we were talking about the other, just last night about, like, what types of aggression there is. Well, the aggression that Shreds does is, let's just have K-Walk just walk up red stairs, just find Recited, and then, hey, why not, let's just walk him even further, shut down that player over inside bar, and then walk into the bomb site. Lost his life, obviously, and did start to worry that Shreds were overextending with no info, completely overheating, allowing for JJ to even it out to that 3-3. But then just too much overextending over in that white position, specifically over in the bathroom, giving that Capital that 1v1, allowing for Shreds to claw back that man advantage. giving not only confidence but also the power of having an extra man. They're able to apply additional pressure with JJ and Co. not really being able to do anything to stop it aside from getting aggressive themselves, playing exactly how they wanted, playing into that 1v3 position, forcing JJ and Co. to take even more isolated kills. Again, a phenomenal opening round from Shreds.
Getting things started in round number 2 here. We've seen a lot of players so far really like to rock with the G36. A couple of big changes recently, including a buff to the G36, have brought it back into the forefront here for a lot of Ashe players, and I imagine that we'll see that continuing here. And Jamari's going to need the best gun that he can get. He is playing one of the primary entry roles for this team, and interestingly enough, the primary entry is droning himself in, Goose, something that you don't really see a lot when you find teams that have success. Although he's quickly back off of drones, speaking of him, Jamari has already ascended to the top of red stairs and is once again taking an early fight with Recited, who's burned through 2 out of his 3 toxic babes already, trying to keep Jamari from continuing to aggress forward. Smoke will walk forward now, looking to take a fight at close range, but will fall back as the Candelas start to rain on in. Romeo trying to support his teammate here and buy Jamari a little bit of time on the walk forward. They have yet to deal with the smoke here. This could be a very important fight to determining who wins the round, and both teams are just continuing to wait at the door.
I mean, another round where K-Walk did the exact same walk up those red stairs, but because Recited just had a little bit more of an inkling of what he was trying to do, he was prepared, but as I say that, even if it took half the round, K-Walk is able to get the down, but they don't know that JJ swings and almost for 2. But Azid, he's able to finish it now and still Shreds with the man advantage.
Just over a minute to go. 4 remaining members of Shreds are finally taking control of that cigar spot. Or not cigar, but rather... Yeah, no, cigar, right? I don't remember.
Yeah,
anyways, yeah, cigar. Doesn't matter, but what does matter is Azez takes down Amty, finally, another player off the board. He's quickly traded back, at least down by Emilio. Another down and a finish by Epic here. And suddenly, we're back in a 2 versus 2. Emilio and Epic have made this more than winnable now, with John and Reklu both on limited HP. He still has the cut-up as well, and another kill for Emilio. It suddenly left all up to the Twitch. Lots of time still remaining, just about 30 seconds. Maybe an opportunity here to pick up the IQ. That's exactly what he's going to look to do here. They have the idea, but do they know that Emilio's pushing his way forward? They do not. Emilio picks up another one, finishes off the IQ finally, and Epic walks his way back in through Freezer. A masterfully played 4v2 there for JJ and Co. as they salvage that round back and tie us up.
I gave so much props to Shreds on their attack, using that additional utility on the first map, but this time around, they just continue to just go for that. I don't want to use caveman brain. That's a little bit too mean, but just really relying on that raw mechanical skill. Never really dealing with that shield over inside a pixel, not clearing anybody outside of bathroom, not applying any additional pressure on side of white. You did have somebody repel into heaven, but they just tried to just smash their head against a rock wall and hope it eventually broke down. And to be fair, they did crack that wall quite a bit, getting themselves into a 3v3, but then just losing their life because they had no real map control. Those crossfires being set up by JJ and Co, that position and control over by Bathroom and Pixel allowed for Shreds to just swing into gunfights and angles that they just were not even prepared to go for. And JJ and Co just really using that over-aggression, the overheat from Shreds individually and overall as a team to completely just dismantle them one by one.
That really was surprising, because that site doesn't usually play very well for a retake, and the fact that JJ and Co pulled that off is really just a testament to their overall knowledge of the map and how to play the game of Siege. Their positioning was just better. They held so many of the important cutoffs there, and were able to, like you said, pick off those 1v1 gunfights. About 30 seconds into round number 3 here, and as is the norm on Cafe, everybody from Shreds is working their way up to the top floor. As you so often see, they have to clear out this top floor. They have to deal with this utility. And they have to start to leverage some of that vertical pressure. They've got a couple of breach charges to work with. John's already burned through 2 of them, but they do also have the breaching rounds of the Ash available. Jamari ate some damage, I believe, from an impact grenade, maybe from
Capcan
JJ?
trap.
Capcan trap, that's what it was. Recited, I was going to say, I didn't see the explosion, but it was definitely there. There's an impact grenade from down below, catches Jamari Lacken, and Epic pops up for the opening kill of the round. A big one there, and that's a lot of control leveraged. As working his way back up here. Shots coming in from down below, is able to leverage the trade on Epic, and somehow escapes us back into a 4v4 situation. Ampty, the last one left here on the top floor, has been found out in a very isolated spot, trapped over by Pixel. Multiple players from all different angles here trying to hold the cutoff and maybe find this kill. He's certainly a dead man walking, and there you go. Romeo will shut him down. JJ continues to find an opportunity for him and the rest of his team to stay in this round, however, as he quickly trades it back, and we stay in a 3v3.
Again, having this control on the vertical, clearing out this extension from JJ and Co, but they still have to go for the execution. They have to get this bomb down. JJ and Co, they're sitting on this bomb site pretty uncomfortable. They have these crossfires set up. JJ, completely unknown, even with a yellow ping of his own, and treads another round where they have to go for an execution with no info to back it up.
Bait from the drop-in is read by JJ, and he's able to find himself another kill. Man advantage to work with now for the defense with just about 40 seconds left. Third kill for JJ. How about a fourth? JJ and Co, the team captain, takes matters into his own hands. What a round from him. And it's the lead now for JJ and Co as they find themselves another successful site.
I don't know if you know this. A little fun stat for this stream. I told JJ it. Before today, I casted JJ 3 times in the group stage. What were those games? Friendship Team, Fans Coast, and their last game on Night Haven Labs. All 3 games that they lost. So sure, the Goose Curse of going overtime has been broken. But the juice, the JJ Goose Curse, has not been broken. JJ in a really good position to break it and win it 2-0 here today. But again, just the lack of overall structure, not being able to balance that drone economy, putting Shreds in a position where they had no info whatsoever going into that execution phase, giving JJ 3 separate 1v1s. As I've said time and time before, barbecue chicken, meat falling off the bone. It was easy. All he had to do was just eat it up. And again, it's Shreds just giving JJ and Co these easy engagements, easy rounds that they're more than likely going to take advantage of.
I would just like it to be known that while you may be JJ's curse, I am JJ's blessing. The nomical blessing is in full effect here. JJ always gets a power-up whenever he knows that I'm casting him. He's got to put on a show, you know, for his favorite caster. Not
All
saying, I'm not putting words in his mouth, I'm just telling you the truth. Anyways, back on the middle floor here, and we're back into the kill feed if you're recited, and not in a way that you want to be. Still continuing to struggle on the entry, as Reclu finds another one for himself. The Capcan, the first one off the board, and that was something that you and I were talking about, is that Recited throughout the main group stage had been really filling the void in the entry department. Him and Snake had been really that dynamic entry duo, and with Recited struggling today and Snake not here, we've had to see other players step up, and so far, largely, there just hasn't really been that early round presence for JJ and Co.
Also, K-Watch just having a really phenomenal time. We talked about, you know, we shined on how he was the star player, 11-2 in the entry. Even though they are still down around, he has had a phenomenal time in this entry department. Again, you can see that Shreds are using so much utility and info. 2 drones in front of him to clear his way, now having Azid, but eventually an answer back from Emilio to shut that down, and the Capcan traps too, and a C4 to back it up and give JJ and Co the man advantage. No info. Still setting up this vertical, still trying to get useful top site utility and control, and this round is starting to fall apart for Shreds.
Oh, it gets worse. JJ continues to be on a heater here. Damari, the next one off the board. That's a big one there, as it's the Finka, one of the main people that could have helped heal up the remaining attackers. Just about a minute to go here. These final 2 have a lot of work to do. Amelia will make sure that nothing happens, and John finds himself left alone here, in a 1v4. Not a very good spot to be in. As he walks his way down red stairs, there's a player ahead of him inside of, I believe, Train. Looks as though that's JJ. Next one they'll have to take a fight with. Nice swing around there. Takes down Epic as he tried to walk his way back up. Gets John off guard. But as his HP is getting chipped away at by multiple different players, he actually does find a second kill there. Maybe a third one awaits him as he walks his way in. A little bit more HP chipped away at, and Amelia will make sure that the damage is negligent. And that is all she wrote for that round. JJ and Co. pick up another one.
Another phenomenal round of just JJ and Co. understanding the map and using their info. We've talked about a lot how this Shred's info not only has just kind of been a lapse of judgment, not really using it to the fullest potential, but honestly in situations not really doing a great job of kind of like conserving it, making sure that they use it at points where it's really needed. And sometimes even in that execution phase, they still had quite a bit of drones in their pocket, not being able to even find these cap can traps. And it's just these simple mistakes. Because you don't gather enough info to back up your pushes, you just go into traps, whether it be a JJ and Co player holding an angle that Shreds is not aware of, or just simply two Capcan traps on a door, and then a C4 below to back it up from JJ. This is that coordination that I was talking about, and I think, I don't want to go out of my way and say Epic and AMT are the answer, but they've been adding so much to this team, taking a lot of that hard work, especially in that entry department, off their shoulders. Obviously, if they have bad games, you start to question what can they do around that. But again, overall, this JJ roster, this problem solving from them has been absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, you could definitely call them a resilient group. Like we were talking about, they've had a lot of roster turmoil recently, and they've been able to stay the course largely. You know, there have been a few bumps in the road, but they're always finding themselves here in contention. They're always putting up big numbers. You love to see that from them. And it looks as though, as of right now, it's going to continue. These defenses have been largely successful for JJ and Co. Jamari has worked his way onto the rappel. A couple of his other teammates have made their way onto the roof. And they're going to start to see if they can't work some of this top-down control. As of right now, it doesn't look as though there's much presented to them. I believe really the only player that's in contention with them, is going to be JJ on the smoke, as he's currently playing up towards Cigar. The drop-in will come. The Toxic Babe will follow. Is JJ going to pursue this? It doesn't look as though he's going to. He's going to continue to sit here and wait for that Toxic Babe to expire, and then see if he can't maybe win that 1v1 engagement. Shotgun in hand, he's just going to continue to wait patiently and just see if this player will aggress. Looks as though Azez is very keen to do so, but another Toxic Babe will halt his advance for just a little bit longer here. That'll give JJ the absolute perfect opportunity to sneak back towards the site and get himself in a little bit of a better position.
You can see also that John is aware of this player, just trying to catch him off, but because he's not moving, because he's not giving this opportunity, still, this smoke just playing here for the entirety of the round has wasted essentially all of it.
Oh!
But a huge swing from the IQ gets two, and now a huge blindside. JJ and Co. overplaying that position now gives two picks completely untraded, but Epic has something to say for himself.
Nice play there by Epic through the smoke. AMT looking for a kill, can't leverage it. Everything going the way of Shreds. All the dominoes fall in a matter of seconds. And just like that, Shreds finally stopped the trend. JJ and Co. had won 3 in a row, but no more. Shreds get themselves their second round in a much needed one at that.
I mean, just a round where Shreds took what was right in front of them. Sure, it did take them essentially 2 minutes to clear that, but a huge swing and a huge blindside specifically from JJ. Not exactly sure what he was looking at in that moment. I mean, maybe he thought a player was going to be swinging in from the right side of his doorway. He did eventually swing around, but he just didn't swing in time. Wasn't in the prepared position to shut down that IQ, and because of it, 2 kills, essentially untraded. Sure, Epic did eventually find one a little bit later on, but you already had the entire execution. Shreds was in the motion of pushing onto those defender positions, and immediately Epic was shut down. And it's a situation where just, a glimpse of hope for Shred. It is only, 1 round, obviously still having another on the board previously, but you're just not going to have another round like that. This last round, if Shreds want to get themselves that 3-3 half, they're going to have to do a lot more because opportunities like that aren't going to consistently pop up right in front of them to take.
Yeah, you definitely have to be an opportunistic team if you're Shreds here. JJ and Co. are not a team that are going to give away anything for free. Final potential attack here for Shreds. What could be an all of Crucible? If they are not able to come back and win this map, whether it be in overtime or regulation, this could be it for them. They have to put together a strong performance on this round and give themselves the best possible chance heading into their defense. We're going to start things off once again with these hatches. They've got the ace who's going to put boots in the building first. Maybe leverage some control over by Piano. Doesn't look like there's a ton of contention on the top floor this time. Really, the only player is going to be Emilio and Epic on the top floor, and Epic will actually go ahead and fall back a little bit here. Empty as well looks to be playing over in a in the same general spot, but him as well is going to be in a pretty good spot to go ahead and fall back here. Fire will start to burn Epic out of his position, but he runs right into a free kill. 2 big kills for Emilio. Grenade quickly trades him back, but the damage is done. That is a huge play for JJ and Co. They find themselves with the man advantage and with a huge opportunity to pick up their 4th.
Shreds, they need to find one. They need to find an answer back, and could Recited be that answer, but Recited reading into that position. Understanding that he doesn't need to overswing and that Shreds are looking for an opening pick, and that's exactly what Jamari is looking for. Buck even going up below, but a missed opportunity. Recited just escaping with his life. And this man disadvantage continues to punish Shreds, but Recited just overstaying his position, giving that isolated one, and now Shreds again, another round where they just have to go down. The entirety of this win factor falls down to this execution.
I mean, this is a wonderful comeback here from Shreds, considering the fact that Emilio had found 2 absolutely crushing kills there on the cocktail extension, but JJ takes it all right back in favor of him and the rest of his team, as it's Jamari, the next one off the board. The Dokkaebi had done its job, however, as a couple of those calls had been used to leverage control of different spots. Nice find there by Reclu to take care of one of the cameras, but he can't kill the player down below. Didn't have good intel as he went for the skeleton key. JJ able to rotate. John has the cutoff. Do they know he's here? It doesn't seem like they do. So John's going to go ahead and just try to stick the plant. It's not going to be able to work, however, as JJ swings out. Epic as well with the last one of that round. And JJ and Co. pick up what would be usually the standard. It's a 4-2 split heading into the second half.
The biggest factor that has allowed for this JJ and Co team to really pull things back together after a shaky group stage, even a shaky loss on Nighthaven Labs in their last best of 1, is just the simple fact, specifically on their defenses, to just play off of each other, allowing for their positions to speak for themselves, not having to be over aggressive. Obviously, you have a couple of players like Recited, who, in my opinion, individually this series has just played relatively poor, not really understanding how to lurk on the defense against this Shreds team. Shreds really eating up his positions. A lot of these entry kills and first picks that Shreds get on the attack are Recited just overplaying his lurk with little to no info, while Shreds have all the info that they possibly could need on him. A lot of the time having a yellow ping to back up the swing from an attacker. It's just kind of a sense where once you get to that, close site extension or the execution on the bomb site, these crossfires that were set up by JJ and Co on their defense were so solid and hard to crack that Shreds were never able to really beat it.
Looks as though Aziz could go for an early jump out here down below. I don't believe anybody's over there, so even if he was going to go for that, it probably wouldn't have much success. Jamari as well, roaming down on the bottom floor. Both these players looking to see if they can't maybe cause some early chaos and find an early pick for Team Shreds. But as everybody from JJ & Co. makes their way to the top floor, the odds of that happening become slimmer and slimmer. I'm not exactly sure what the plan is here from JJ & Co. as of right now. They're playing things relatively spread out as well, a little bit slower than you might expect. You've got everybody playing on some sort of rappel, and maybe the plan is just going to be to go for broke here as we're just repelling in the white window. Emilio, the first one in. Epic joins him quickly thereafter. It is through 3 big kills for JJ and Co. As it's all left up to Aziz and Jamari, the 2 roamers that we talked about just a moment ago. And Jamari will be the first one to answer back as he walks up white stairs. Only good for 1. Empty quickly trades him back, and now it's all left up to the Valkyrie. The plant going down, he won't even have the chance to confirm it, as it's Epic, the one who got everything started. He'll end things out. And there's the 5th for JJ and Co.
The juice not really having that much of an effect. I guess the juice is not back. But again, a phenomenal round.
Hilarious.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I really do try with my bits.
You're welcome.
JJ doing a phenomenal job of just not only reading that the bomb site was soft, only having 3 players, heavy extension roam on that first floor from 2 defensive players, and then, but on top of that, building off of it, just finding not only those specific players on the bomb site, but understanding that they were somewhat isolated, and then quickly reacting off of that info, just completely flooding piano, flooding white, going right to the bomb site, and dealing with those 3 players. Because the site was relatively soft, because they were not even ready, still setting up their defender positions, and they were isolated, those were easy 2v1s, even sometimes a 3v1 for JJ and Co. And Shreds, not only did they not have any semblance that was going to happen, but they just weren't ready. The roamers also going for a rotate upstairs, trying to walk their way up red and white stairs, but by the time they got to the bomb site with those 3 site players being dead, there was no real chance for them to win it.
I like this here from Jamari, using the Mozzie drone to see if he can't maybe go for a jump out on somebody who might be unsuspecting.
Nobody.
So I don't believe that he's in a spot where he's going to be able to actually do anything about that at the moment. We're back up on the top floor here, and there are a lot of castle barricades on this cocktail side of the map. A lot of them are going to have to be cleared out here by the limited utility that JJ and Co have. Going to start to go to work, knifing them open, and giving themselves an avenue into the building. This attack could go really quick. Once again, the Grimbies are already going in from Epic. Emilio's in a position to go for the repellent, but as of right now, it just seems like it might be a bait. Emilio, as well as Amty, are just sitting here for the moment. I believe they're waiting for somebody else to get into a position where they can have a multi-pronged attack. But instead, it doesn't look as though they like what they see. So everybody will go back onto drones, and for the moment at least, they'll reassess their options and get set for round 2 as the grenades start to fly in here. Nothing happening of it just yet. It is actually Reklu to get the first pick. That's the Lion gone, the team captain, the first one to die. And with him off the board, that is really going to limit your options for attack.
See Reklu just trying to get aggressive. This bar has been taken from JJ and Co, but they're just not expecting Epic. And now, getting that kill allows for them to just completely swing onto these players, trying to retake this position, a C4 from below. It just won't work in Recited. He's getting the bomb down.
0-5 doesn't matter. He can still plant, and his teammate Epic on a bit of a heater this map is able to cover him. Epic gets the last 2. That's all she wrote for that round. Ended just about as quickly as it started. JJ and Co, pure domination on these attacks so far, and they find themselves on map, match, and series point.
Just the inability for this Shreds team to not only play together, but understand these crosses that JJ and Co have set up, and that really has been the winning factor of this entire series, is both on the defense of this map, starting on the attack of last map, the factor of JJ and Co to not only understand their positions, allowing to set up these really strong crossfires, being able to play off of each other. If a player loses their life, there's 1-2 JJ and Co players ready to just completely converge onto that defender and shut them down, but also a phenomenal ability from this attack to read into this defense. Not only what the general idea of this defense is, but almost finding the exact positions, understanding that that bomb site, specifically that bar portion, was completely vacant. Only 1 player denying them that control, and then understanding that once they lost that first pick, Shreds had to get over-aggressive. But not only did they get over-aggressive, but they again gave that JJ and Co player two separate 1v1s, not understanding Epic was there, and it's a round where Shreds continue to just have no control and no idea on what this attack is doing.
What could be the potential final round of this series? JJ and Co. 1 round away from a date with Team Cruelty in the quarterfinals of the Crucible. Romeo looking to maybe keep things going for a little bit longer as he finds the opener onto JJ. The Osa off the board. One of the main operators of this potential rush play is now dead, and they didn't get the frost mat. A huge miss there. Recited, quickly dealt with, and now it's all up to Ampty and Epic. Ampty on the run-in. Epic finds the kill. 3v2 here. A lot of work to be done, but it's definitely not out of the question for these two very skilled members of JJ & Co. to pull this back.
There is still a player isolated inside of Christmas, but the C4 from John, not understanding that he retook this position, pushed up further enough to get that C4 off, in a round with so many mistakes from JJ & Co. It's all falling apart. With 1 minute and 40 seconds, though, still plenty of time for Epic to find 3 isolated kills.
Or not. See, Goose, you really are a curse.
I am, man. What's happened to me this event?
I mean, every time you cast or just say something about JJ & Co., it just turns out to no. They're just like,
I don't hate the guy. Like, it's like it looks like I've like done like black magic. I'm not the Chiefs. I didn't like.
Are you a
go
voodoo
down
witch,
to
Goose?
Salem. Say again.
Are you a voodoo witch?
I apparently, I guess so. I could just say something and it actually comes to reality. Nonetheless, again, you know, I talked about in that later half of the round that just a poor execution on that extended position over by Bar and Christmas, that just not shooting that frost mat, not understanding that that player pushed up a little bit further and allowing for NBA Young John to just do his own thing, ball out. And it's a situation where you'll have these rounds where JJ and Co just play too aggressive. They don't do enough of that due diligence and build up in the round to set up that execution. They didn't have enough info, and it's a situation where it won't really happen that much. It's a round where it will only happen once, and it's a problem and mistake that JJ and Co will not make again.
Well, Goose, bit of a technical issue there, and unfortunately that means that JJ will have to wait a little bit longer to try and pick up that final round, as we've got a bit of a tech pause coming in. A bit of an unfortunate timing there. I feel like this is good and bad for both teams. If you were on Team Shreds, I think you really wanted to avoid something like that happen. Obviously, we cannot deal with technical issues, like that's just something that happens sometimes. But, you know, you pick up that last round, you do a great job shutting down that rush by JJ and Co. And now you find all of your momentum halted, but we've got to take a break. You and I will be back in a minute. We got to get all the players back in the lobby, and when we come back, we'll have the conclusion of map number 2 between JJ and Co. and Shreds. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, we are back in the Crucible play-ins. We're in the middle of map number 2 between JJ and Co. and Shreds. And, well, to be quite honest with you, JJ and Co. have been relatively cruising through the second map here. Shreds have had moments of greatness, moments of individual skill, but in fact, Goose, I believe just it's the fact that JJ and Co. have more experience and cohesion that are allowing them to come out on top here.
You know, what a overall just positive message from Epic. Shout out Epic. Love, peace, and prosperity. I agree with you, Epic.
I agree.
Not a lot of prosperity for Shreds, though. Down 3 rounds. Getting that last one off of the back of JJ and Co. having what I would call a very lackluster little quick execution of a push into that Christmas and Bar position. Not shooting a frost mat, allowing for NBA Young John to turn into Prime, Russell Westbrook, and getting 3 of his own as if he was trying to go for a triple-double, and then aside from there, a 2v4, just not really a winnable position. I think, you know, it's one of those rounds where it just won't happen again, but again, it's going to simply be up for Shreds to try and find a gap and read into this attack and deny it against JJ and Co.
Wow, Goose, I'm surprised you didn't use a LeBron analogy.
I gotta, I gotta spice it up. I gotta, even it out.
Okay. Yeah, I can respect that, honestly. I can definitely respect that. It's a nice breath of fresh air, quite honestly, coming from you, but we're going to get things back underway. JJ and Co. continuing the trend that we've seen for them thus far. They are already very much so established inside of the building. Recited has actually taken up space all the way on this mid floor. He's got control over by Laundry, and he's quickly dispatched of by Reclu. Defender had great information there, takes down the Finca, and gets the opening pick. Ampty able to quickly trade it back over on the rappel, take down Jamari. So at least now we find ourselves back in a 4v4. But losing that Finca there was definitely a big loss for JJ and Co.
JJ finding another one. Now getting the complete control and forcing Reclu to just completely vacant that top floor. But now a kill from AZ allows for this 3v3 still to be left on the board. Romeo trying to force the issue, trying to deny them taking the space, but it's a double from AZ.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
Man advantage now for the defensive Shreds to work with. Almost threw it right away there as Epic had the headshot lined up. Not quite able to land it yet, however. And now we continue. As Epic continues to try and find different angles of engagement, he finds 2 big kills. And now it's all left up to Romeo in the 1v2. Epic for 3. And he puts the players with the NBA names in the dirt. The final result, JJ and Co. 2, Shreds 0. It was a valiant effort. The boys over on the side of the Deputy will face Cruelty in the quarterfinals.
I mean, Epic shouting out JJ, shouting out Recite, shouting out his entire team. Shout out Epic. I don't want to go out of my way and say that Epic is the reason that JJ and Co. won this series. But without that 4K, it could have gone into overtime, and then God knows what happens in that realm. And aside from that 4K in that round, the individual capability, especially when you don't have Snake, Recited having the definition of a slow series, relatively even a bad game overall, having players like Epic, Aimty, step up, specifically Epic, in that entry position, being able to shut that down, and on top of that, JJ himself even having a great game, but it was the structure, the capability for this JJ and Co roster to simply just play off of each other, always make sure that they are doubled up and deny as many isolated gunfights from Shreds as possible is what really won them and got them a 2-0 victory, now going on to playoffs against Cruel.
What a fantastic showing. The emergency sub, the new roster pickup, proves his worth instantly. Epic with an absolutely insane series. You said you didn't want to give him all the praise and all the credit. I will. I think without him, this would have been a completely different game. The fragging power from a lot of the other impactful players on JJ and Co, such as Snake, Sighted, Emilio, just weren't necessarily showing up in the way that we had seen them before. Specifically Snake not being here today, as we talked about in the pre-show, their best performer. They desperately needed a performance like that, and they got exactly what they needed.
Yeah, and I think especially this is what I expected. Even if JJ and Co won this 2-1, I would be worried. But this 2-0, such a decisive victory, a 7-5, a little bit worrisome there, but then a 7-3 shutting down Cafe, now going up against Cruelty. I still think it is going to be a very difficult matchup that Cruelty probably still on paper is in the favor of. But now I'm just more confident. I really do hope that they might pick up Epic, because Epic is just a nasty player that time after time shows that this ability for him to shine, especially in that entry and frag department, is a consistent factor and not something that's just one day out of the week.
Well, Goose, our first play-in game is done. We are officially in best of 3 season. Team Shreds will join the Washington Wizards and 1HB as the first 3 teams eliminated from the Crucible. JJ and Co march on to the quarterfinals, and like we've said, they have a date with Cruelty coming next week. We've got another play-in game ready for you, but from Goose and I, that's all Shiro. We've got 2 exciting and excellent newcasters ready to take you through the next play-in game when we come back.